DVAAPBase also includes a really powerful tool for performing non-discrimination testing. It's the IRNSS Reporting. Now, this report combines in one report both the impact ratio analysis and statistical significance analysis for any of the employee activities: hires, promotions, transfers, terminations. So let's take a look at the hires report. Any two people groups can be compared. They have the standard comparisons: females versus males, minority versus non-minorities, or you can do a custom comparison where you can compare any two groups. If you have a question about comparison groups, take a look at the comparison groups tutorial video. Also have a most favored option for gender and race and ethnicity. This allows you to perform the analysis for females versus males and detect differences for both males and females, not just looking at females. And again, with the most favored race and ethnicity report, you can do the same thing and detect not only statistically significant differences in selection rates for the minority groups, but also for non-minorities. Let's go ahead and take a look at this one of the standard reports. Let's take a look at females versus males. And you have to indicate how you want the report to be grouped by. Let's go ahead and group this report by job group. Now, join by, let's take a look at the next tab settings here, and this join by will become more apparent. So what we're doing is we're analyzing hires, but we have to indicate what is the pool of activities or data that we want to use for the hires. Now, for hires, traditionally applicants are used, but any of the other fields, for instance, promotions or transfers, could be used. Applicants makes the most sense here. But the pool is the employees who are eligible for selection in this group. So we'll be using applicants as the pool, and we have to know how to connect the applicant data back to the hire data. Now, since we're grouping the hire data by job group, we pick the field in the applicant data that we are grouping the applicant data by. In this case, we'll also be doing it by job group, but let's talk about a case where these two fields wouldn't be the same. So in this case, we're doing by job group, and since the fields are the same, we'd be joining from the hires to the applicants by the job group field. A case where this would not be used is probably in the promotion area. Since the promotion data contains both the from and to job group for a promotion, typically when you set up a promotion IRA-SS test, you indicate that you want to group, let's say the promotion data, we want that to group it also by job group, and the pool for promotions, maybe it's the prior year workforce is very common to use for that. But since the promotion data contains the from and to job group for each promotion, the headcounts from the prior year workforce should be the from job group of the promotions, not the to job group. So the prior year workforce, we'll be grouping that by job group as well. But now in the promotion data, we don't want to look at the current job group for the promotions. We want this to join to the prior year workforce by the from job group. So we're going to select a different field here than job group. In promotions, we have the from job group available. So what this will do is for each promotion, it'll do the head counts by job group, but then it will look at the from job group for each promotion. It will go into the prior year workforce and look at the job groups there and compare that job group to the from job group for each promotion, making the connection and getting the appropriate headcounts in place. So now let's take a look at the date options in this report. You have the option of limiting the dates of activities that are used in the report. Let's go back to, we'll do the hire report. We already set up the groupings that we want to use and selected our applicant pool for the hires report. Now we can optionally limit the dates to use for activities and for our pool data. If we want to focus on just one period of time, we can independently set the date range for the activities to include for both our pool and our activity data. In this case, we just want to include all the dates. We're going to look at all the hires and all the pool data. This allows you to focus down on a specific point in time. For this report, we can show either all the groupings or only where SS is indicated. Let's go ahead and leave it on all groupings so we can see both the cases where there are selection rates are SS indicated and those where they're not. I also have the option of showing a bottom line total on this report. That means the totals for the entire focus, in this case we're going to be doing it by establishment, at the bottom would be analyzed. Let's go ahead and turn that on so you can see what that result looks like. And filtering. We can independently filter our activity data and our pool data. Now the reason we're not using the normal filtering process, which is on the next page, you'll see it's not here in this case, is that we have two sets of data that we work with when we're doing the IRA and SS reports. We have pool data and we have activity data. So we might want to limit those two sets of data by different criteria. So we can't use the single filtering option, which is normally present on this next step of the reporting process. So you can independently filter both the activity data and the pool data here. If you have any questions about filtering and how that works, go ahead and look at the filtering tutorial that we have on our site here. We'll just be using all the data. We won't apply a filter to these. Now Fisher Exact is one of the analyses that are performed on the selection rates, and also standard deviation is performed as well if there are enough employees. So for low employee counts, the Fisher Exact is the favored result. And you can look at choose whether or not the one-tail result is calculation is used or the two-tail. One-tail is recommended because we're really interested in when the result is lower, the selection rate is lower on one side than the other. The two-tail only tells you if the selection rates are different. So let's do one-tail. Let's go ahead and take a look at this report and see how it looks. So again, we'll be doing this by establishment. And let's look at California and preview this report. So here is the impact ratio and statistical significance analysis. So for each of the groupings, in this case we're grouping by job group, we have the pool and activity data accounts for both males and females, and the total applicants, hires for both groups. We see the selection rates for each. The overall selection rate is the total, looking at the totals for the group, and the selection rate for males and the selection rate for females, where they can be calculated. Now if there's no activities, you'll see this NA option here, and there's a corresponding footnote describing what NA means, and also NA2 if the impact ratio cannot be calculated. Where it can be calculated, you see the impact ratio. Now if in this case, this is a positive activity of hires. Now if this impact ratio is less than 80%, or 0.8, it's highlighted in yellow to indicate that there's an impact ratio indicated, adverse impact. So we have a few groups that do have that. After that is shown the expected count, selection count for the protected group, in this case females. So it's expected for this group that one would be selected and one was selected. If there were fewer selections than expected, the difference in the selection would be shown here. For example, if it was expected that 2 or 3 females would be selected based on the numbers, then the difference would be here. The Fisher Exact calculation result is shown here. If this is less than 0.025 for the one-tail result, this would be highlighted in red to indicate a statistically significant difference in selection rates. If there are at least 30 employees in a group, and if there's at least each expected value is at least 5 or more, then you also get the standard deviation result in the final column here. Again, that would also be highlighted in red when it's the difference is at least 2 standard deviations. So in this case, we don't have any statistically significant difference. Nothing is highlighted. And here's the last line of the report here. Here's the bottom line calculation. This totals all of the values down to one final result and looks at the selection rate, the overall selection rate for the entire establishment. This can have an overall look at the establishment and whether or not there's any discrepancies here. In this case, it's a little more than the other reports. We actually have enough employees in the overall head counts to do the standard deviation test, but again, no statistically significant results here.